Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another video we're going to be bringing you today on Dragon Ball Z. And in that video, we're going to be talking about the character of Vegeta, the Saiyan Prince. Well, no longer, considering that his planet got blown up when he was a little kid, but he likes to pretend. But anyway, we're going to be talking about, in this topic, something that people have wondered for a long time and continue to kind of be up in arms against or for. It's very polarizing. And that is the topic of when did Vegeta, or how did Vegeta, become pure of heart? And before we begin this subject, we're going to be joined by two very special guests. And starting first off from Space Brisbane, Space Australia, his name is...
What is going on, my super sandwiches? Super Jayain here, coming at you from Space Australia.
You sound more like a Bosnian than you sound like a Australian, but maybe that's just me and my weird hearing. But then, from Space Puerto Rico, his name is...
What? It took me a minute to register that. All right. What's up, guys? Geekdom here. Get burnt. And today we're going to be talking about how I'm not Puerto Rican. And something about Dragon Ball.
But we really don't know if he is Puerto Rican or not. But we'll talk about it for 15 minutes. I'm just anyway. We're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about Vegeta, his purity.
His purity. Jay and I already talked about that a long time ago.
His purity ring, which Bulma took from him.
Virginity.
But we're going to be talking about when he became, or how he became, pure of heart. And I think that we should first start off with, essentially the when. Because what point could we pinpoint this before we talk about, how exactly, what went about in the metamorphosis of his character? And so to start off, I'm going to start off with the number one Vegeta fanboy. I mean, the man from Space Brisbane, Super Jayain.
Don't you mean I'm Bosnian, man? You got me confused with someone else. Nah, I'm not joking. Great to be here, guys. Yeah, look, for me, there's two turning points for Vegeta becoming somewhat, when. If we're talking about the when he became pure of heart, I would say there's 2 points. The first you could really argue is when he obviously sacrifices his life for Goku, Bulma, Trunks, not in that order, of course, and he decides to blow himself up. He lets go of his hatred and anger for Goku at that time, and he just focuses on being the hero for a change, and he doesn't care whether he gets to go to the other world or if he goes to hell. He just does it for purely unselfish reasons. He just wants to save everyone's life and kind of repent for what he did earlier. And then there's the second point that I brought up with Geekdom101 earlier, which is, really, I felt that the turning point for Vegeta, even though there you could say that's the turning point, the real turning point for me is when he's making that wish to Purunga, is because he doesn't mention himself once. He basically wants everyone to be brought back that was killed by Babidi and Babidi's men, basically. So
yeah,
he doesn't mention himself at all. He doesn't care if he gets brought back at all. He just wants to basically right some of the wrongs that he's done. Even though Bulma had used the Dragon Balls earlier to revive everyone, Vegeta killed at the Tenkaichi Budokai World Martial Arts Tournament, for those of you that are English preferred. Basically, yeah, that point there for me, when he didn't mention himself in that wish at all, and he had no care in the world as to whether he was brought back to life or not, and then his halo disappeared, Purunga got rid of his halo, that was a turning point for me for him. That was when he really became pure of heart there for me, is when his halo was removed by the Namekian dragon.
And that's a really great point to make. Now, Danny, what do you think? Do you agree with Jay, or do you have any perhaps other examples that you could point out?
He made the two strongest points. And the thing is about Vegeta's character is, Dragon Ball Z, just Z, the Z portion, Goku and Gohan are the main characters, but Vegeta gets the most, the biggest arc, I would say, of all the characters. Yes. He has a full turn. And the thing is about it is that as the series progresses, you see little, signs here and there of him becoming, less aggressive. He's still kind of a cocky douchebag, in the Frieza arc and in the Cell arc. And I think in the Frieza arc, he still has plans to kill Goku and Gohan and everybody else. I think it's after that. And I really believe that the shift in Vegeta's character happened with his relationship with Bulma. I do believe that that is the case. So, he became pure of heart officially when he sacrificed himself against Majin Buu, but he was still kind of becoming a more loving man, a more loving husband and father to his wife and son during the 7-year gap, because that's what softened him up. Goku was dead. Yeah. He had no opponents to fight. He still trained, of course, but he wasn't evil. He no longer cared about destroying the world or conquering planets or even fighting anymore. He just loved his family, and we really see more of that in Battle of Gods in Super, where he's actually getting angry. And then, of course, there's that great scene, that amazing scene when Cell kills Future Trunks and Vegeta explodes. That's his son. Even though it's from a different timeline, that's still his son. That, to me, is the first real indicator, when that happens, of Vegeta showing emotion for his family. That right there. So that's where it all started, when Future Trunks was killed. So...
Yeah. Well, for me, real quick, I wanted to say that I agree with both of you. That's when he definitely became pure of heart. That was when he hit the, peak or the epitome of pure in terms of his, how he actually was as a person. But I could certainly see him even earlier starting to become more that way. Like Danny said, for example, the Frieza arc, he is slightly less evil, but he still is evil. And it continues on. I feel like he started to become softer during the point in time where he was waiting on Earth for Goku to come back. Because if you notice, he's just, okay, I'll live with Bulma. He's hanging around with Yamcha, who he brutally murdered, in the previous arc, and he didn't even care. He treated all these people like trash, but instead he's just hanging out with them. So I feel like even as early as that, Vegeta's just eroding, and then he comes up, when he's Super Saiyan, and says, oh, I'm pure evil. But I never really believed that. I always thought that was just his little excuse to give. I just think at that point it was kind of obvious.
Cool line.
I think it's him. I think it's him fighting it. No, I don't mean to interrupt. It's kind of the same as when he was trying to convince Goku that he doesn't hold any attachments to his family or Earth in their Super Saiyan 2 battle.
And Goku calls him a liar.
Liar, and knocks him down. Yeah, I think it's he's just denying. He doesn't want to accept that he's changing.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've talked in the past about the dub, and I remember the episode where Vegeta kills himself was called, I think, Vegeta's Atonement. And as a kid, when I saw that episode on television, obviously the Japanese name of that episode was not Vegeta's Atonement, but I remember not really understanding what that word meant, and I remember looking it up later and realizing that an atonement pretty much means a sacrifice that you make for the god. So to me, that is a pivotal moment in Vegeta's character, because he realized that the reason why this monster is awake is because of him. Just like he probably thought to himself, okay, I fucked up with Cell. I allowed him to become perfect, and I've done all these mistakes. I allowed 18 and 17 to be awoken, all because of his ego. And he realized that now with Boo being out, it's almost as if he said, okay, I've gone too far, and that's what he did. He atoned for his sins. He sacrificed himself, and I thought it was very interesting verbiage used by Funimation for that movie, or for that episode, because it fits. It actually makes sense. Okay, he atoned for his sins, therefore, when the wish was made at the end of the series and the halo disappears, that is concrete proof that in the eyes of Porunga, whatever weight that holds, Vegeta is no longer an evil person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I was going to say overall, to actually let you guys expand even more on this, this actually allows us now to talk about the how. And I was going to let you go now, Jay. How do you think Vegeta had this metamorphosis go within his body, in his soul? And, how do you think that this, progressed? Why do you think it was that happened? What do you think was the real motivating factor?
Yeah, well, I'll also, I'll also just, elaborate a little bit on what Geekdom said. And it's one of those things. He denied his change, and really when Goku was knocked out lying on the ground, he kind of looked at himself. You can just see it in that scene. He looks at himself and he goes, I need to change, I need to do something different, because he even says, I can't sense Gohan's ki, and he apologizes straight away. I'm sorry, Gohan, this is my fault.
Yeah.
And that straight away says, that speaks volumes. That's only the second time in the series you ever hear Vegeta apologize. Funnily enough, both times are to Gohan. So he really was a dick to Gohan. But it's just one of those. And then when he's having that basically seeing that silhouette of Goku standing in front of him, and he's flashing back of all the times he fucked up, basically. And he even mentions in the Japanese dub, Goku has had to save them every time, and he kind of feels because of his actions, Goku's had to step in and save them. And he's kind of right. I mean, against Frieza, Goku had to step in. Frieza wouldn't have even probably transformed if Vegeta hadn't provoked him. You could argue the androids was his fault, Cell was his fault, Boo getting released was his fault. So he continuously fucks up, and he realizes he's got to change his ways at that point. But the how it happened, fundamentally, I put it down to two people. I put it down to Goku and Bulma. Goku is the first because Goku is the first person to ever show Vegeta compassion. And you could say that Vegeta was shown compassion just because Goku was doing it for selfish reasons and wanted to, fight Vegeta again in the future. But I also put it down to a little bit of compassion. Goku always likes to see the best in his opponents, and I can prove that time and time again through the series. Even Frieza, who relentlessly kills people and shows time and time again he's not going to change, Goku still shows him compassion and gives him some of his ki so he can escape the planet. Goku is a compassionate person. So I think that's the first little glimpse of where Vegeta was shown the door. And then the second part was Bulma. Bulma cared enough for Vegeta to start making a difference and start to change his ways a little bit. Like little things like Vegeta waking up after being injured during his training for the androids and seeing Bulma sitting there by his bedside, just being there for him. Bulma, although he might have seen her as an annoyance at the time, Bulma would have seen that Bulma cared about him. And over the years,
put those titties in his face, though.
Like I said off air before, Bulma showed Vegeta a lot of new feelings. He's never felt before. Add a wink to that, and you get the picture. So, over the years, I felt Bulma's love and Goku's love would have rubbed off on Vegeta, and he tried to deny it at first. He tried to, kind of get rid of those feelings, but ultimately it didn't succeed, and he became one of the good guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just say I think it was the people who he said before he killed himself, Goku, Bulma, and Trunks, because I think that the reason why Vegeta and Bulma got closer was also because of the birth of their son, and there is. Again, we're using psychology for human beings in Dragon Ball, but there is psychological evidence of people who have children. I don't have kids, but having a kid does change your life. And even though this guy's a ruthless motherfucker, having a kid, plus the fact there was no Goku anymore, plus the fact that he came to terms with the fact that he screwed up, and Bulma, all those factors I think changed him. I mean, it actually is kind of a realistic character arc that I could totally see that happening. He meets a chick who's rich, he doesn't have to do shit anymore. And remember, we talked about this in me and Jay's video. They're both very, very, royal and regal, and they're kind of spoiled. And Trunks is going to end up being spoiled too. We see that in the series, of course, but it doesn't mean they don't love each other. So that's what it was. It was the love of his family, because he finally got a family. He never had a family before. He grew up with, Frieza and his dad, and that, his dad. I'm sure he cared for his dad, but this is a different kind of love. And it was in peaceful times. There was no fighting. All that stuff contributed, I think.
Yeah, and those are really excellent points. I mean, you both bring up pretty excellent points when it comes to exactly why he became, pure of heart in the first place. And there are a lot of people who today are like, oh, look at Vegeta, look at the way he talks and he regards himself. Like, how could Vegeta, of all people, be pure of heart? Like, obviously the Super Saiyan God ritual could not make someone pure of heart because, look, Vegeta was in it. But they go out of their way to say that he is, and then people are like, well, their version of what's pure of heart is wrong, but I feel like Vegeta really did make that transformation. Yeah, I feel like he really did become a good person.
If you can change, and I can change, we can change, He changed.
And Dragon Ball takes a lot from Rocky, so I mean, it only makes sense that Vegeta actually did train. I mean, did change, obviously he did. But I definitely think it makes sense for Vegeta to be able to become a god because he actually is pure of heart. And so a lot of people who look at him, it's just like, okay, Vegeta might be a grumpy kind of dick, but he's still pure of heart, you know what I mean? Like, there's lots of people who are just like, fuck you, and then they go and pet kittens, you know what I mean? So, that's just how he is, I think. And I think it definitely makes sense that he became pure of heart in the series.
Yeah, I always pretty much look at Vegeta these days. I always describe him to people. He's like a really angry version of Goku. Sorry, he's like a really, really, really agitated version of Goku.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, overall, I think that we all pretty much agree he did become pure of heart, and he could kick Broly's ass any day of the week. But anyway, this has been another video that we've been talking about in which we were discussing whether or not Vegeta was actually pure of heart, which we agree, and how it came to be and when. Don't forget to leave your comments down below telling us when you think he became pure of heart, if you agree with us, and what your reasons for him not being pure of heart might be. Also, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
No.